Hamas officials says 4 Israeli women hostages will be freed in return for Palestinian prisoners on Saturday in the second such release under a ceasefire deal. Nunu said the Palestinian Islamist movement would release 4 Israeli female detainees in exchange for a second group of Palestinian prisoners. The Al-Quds Brigade's Islamic Jihad's military wing has also confirmed their commitment to the ceasefire agreement, saying in the coming days a number of the enemy's prisoners who meet the conditions of the first phase and in coordination with the Al-Qassam brigades will be released. Meanwhile, the relatives of the 3 Israeli hostages released from Gaza by Palestinian militants, Hamas calls for all those remaining in the territory to be freed.
We confirm our commitment to the ceasefire agreement and our involvement at Al-Quds brigades in the current prisoner exchange deal. We will release in the coming days a number of the enemy's prisoners who meet the conditions of the first phase of the deal, and in coordination with our brothers in the Al-Qassam brigades. We are committed to the agreement, but if the enemy does not abide by it, we will be ready, as usual, to defend our people and our holy sites in the event of any violation and aggression.
I'm delighted to be able to tell you that Emily is in high spirits on the road to recovery. As you will have seen last night, she is an amazingly strong and resilient young woman. Please keep on fighting for the remaining 94 hostages who need to come home. There are too many other families who are waiting to hug their loved ones or bring them back for a proper burial. As I've been saying over the past number of months, the hostages in Gaza must have access to humanitarian aid while they are waiting to be released. As humanitarian organizations bring aid into Gaza, the hostages must also be supplied with food, water, medicine, clothing, and more.
We got our Romy back to healing and strength, but all families deserve the same outcome, both the living and the dead.
Doron is well. She is strong and courageous, but the road to recovery is still long for her and for us. The fact that I came home does not mean that those still there do not need to return. Everyone must return. I ask that you continue to fight, not to give up. Take to the streets. All steps of the deal must be carried out. We must bring everyone back.
Well, and for more on this development, European Affairs analyst Dr. Marek Laskiewicz joins us from London. Marek, glad to have you join us. Interestingly, the deal seems to be holding out.
Yes, it's very good news for the hostages released so far and for the Palestinian prisoners which have been released. And to this extent, the deal is holding and seems likely to hold on the basis of the Gaza area alone. The real problem now is starting up in the West Bank. There's been an Israeli security operation, and there is talk of some for annexation of land, and that therefore here is probably the weakest aspect of the deal, because of course this is still Palestine, and it's here that there will be problems, in particular about any future talks about more permanent deals.
16 days after the start of the first, the second talks or on the second phase is supposed to come into operation. What are your expectations?
I anticipate that the talks will go ahead. I think that because there's so much in it for both sides to hold the ceasefire until that time, I anticipate there will be a ceasefire should hold. However, I say should because, as I've stated, it is the West Bank which is the weak point now. Even so, despite whatever incidents there may occur in the West Bank, I anticipate the talks starting, but it is genuinely hard to see much progress likely. Israel has, please note, Netanyahu himself stated, reserved the right to carry on the war, and therefore it is more than likely that after the release of hostages, the ceasefire, the aid convoys have been through, which is another important aspect. Please note, 630 lorries entered recently into Gaza. It's more than likely that there will be a great difficulty in agreeing any further steps.
what's your sense of the fact that Trump said something like one day into his being sworn in, he will end the war, I think, in Ukraine and Russia. And then, of course, he didn't make any mention of Putin or Zelensky or Gaza, nothing of the sort. Did that take you by surprise?
No, because after all, he's a politician, and it's well known politicians are somewhat easy in their language, and it's much more difficult to translate into deeds. As you have pointed out, he didn't even mention it, which is a very important point, and which indeed supports what's been stated by people around him, that in fact it's going to be more like 100 days or months before it is resolved. And to be quite honest, it's very hard to see how he intends to easily resolve it because, and here's one of the key problems, both Ukraine and Russia are still holding, as far as one can tell, to their original goals. And so therefore, as with the Gaza situation, it's hard to be over-optimistic to see much progress in either front.
Where those people like Ben-Gvir and Mulrush, is it Mulrush, what's their stance now with the ongoing deal, taking place? What was their stance? Are they still haranguing Benjamin Netanyahu? Do they still want to break down the coalition?
Yes. Not so much break the coalition as wage war again. Their view was they will not take part in the sense they resign from government but not bring it down, but they expect the war to continue until the key aim, which is not only their aim, but which was Netanyahu's stated aim, that is to say the destruction of Hamas, is fulfilled, and that therefore they anticipate no second phase. And this has not changed. So underneath all the good news, which is happening at present in Gaza, are these very ominous clouds which are gathering. But still, there should be 2 weeks of at least prisoner releases, aid, and hostage releases, which is very good news for all concerned.
Marek, in all this, both sides and the parties involved, Egypt, Qatar, US, Israel, are they even discussing the foundational issue, which is the two-state solution?
But Israel is not keen at all on the two-state solution. And as far as it can be seen, the present-day government will not in any way move this forward. The central problem is that if you have a ceasefire and any sort of deal, it is written in thin air until, as you stated, there's a two-state solution. If there is no two-state solution, then one anticipates simply an ongoing conflict again and again. And this, it would appear, is by no means bad from the Israeli viewpoint, because it justifies their further attack as far as one can see. And therefore, there is no pressure from their side for a two-state solution. So the key question is Trump. What has President Trump ever published? He did publish a plan with Palestinian enclaves. That is also not what the Palestinians want to hear, because the impression, therefore, is they're, so to speak, like Indians on a reservation. And that, therefore, we have yet to hear what he says officially as the president. And until that happens, we are guessing. But there is no movement at present to a two-state solution at all within the talks, because phase 2 is not dealing with that issue.
I remember that, I think it was the chief, is it a defense minister, left the government. His angst was that Netanyahu is not even discussing the question of the state of Gaza, even when all the dust dies down. What government stays in Gaza?
This is actually far more pertinent, because once you say there's no movement to a two-state solution, then quite who rules in Gaza? And the answer is, this is all what phase 2 will be dealing with. And I'm afraid at present, it's virtually impossible to tell. As far as one can see, there is no solution that is acceptable to all sides. And most likely, because there is a vacuum, Hamas will therefore officially and unofficially continue to be in charge to some degree. However, even that is difficult because no one really feels like being leader of the Hamas at present. And so therefore, what is more than likely is that the situation will somehow, how can we put it, meander on without a definite conclusion for some time, because there is no clear plan from anyone apart from, of course, the dream of a true two-state solution, which many Palestinians hold.
All right, thank you so much. European Affairs analyst there, Dr. Marek Laskiewicz, for your time. He's been speaking to us from London.